I want to know what love is. Sarah stared out the rain-streaked window of the bus, watching the city lights blur into streaks of neon as they sped through the night. The gentle engine rumble and the soft patter of raindrops against the glass created a soothing rhythm, almost lulling her into a trance. But sleep was the furthest thing from her mind. Her thoughts were a whirlwind, replaying the events that had led her to this moment. At 35, Sarah had achieved everything she thought she wanted in life. She had a successful career as a corporate lawyer, a sleek apartment in the heart of New York City, and the respect of her peers. Yet, as she sat on this midnight bus to nowhere, she felt more lost than ever. The conflict within her was palpable, a battle between the life she had built and the love she had yet to find. It had started with a simple question from her niece, Lily, during a family gathering last weekend. The precocious 7-year-old had looked up at her with wide, curious eyes and asked, "Aunt Sarah, have you ever been in love?" The question had caught Sarah off guard. She had fumbled for an answer, realizing she didn't have one. Sure, she had dated over the years and had relationships that looked good on paper. But love? True, all-consuming, heart-pounding love? She wasn't sure she even knew what that meant. That realization had shaken her to her core. How had she gone through life without experiencing something so fundamental? Had she been so focused on her career that she had closed herself off to the possibility of real connection? These questions had haunted her all week, gnawing at her during long nights at the office and quiet moments alone in her apartment. Then, on a whim, she packed a bag, walked out of her apartment, and boarded this bus. As the city faded behind her, Sarah felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. She had no plan, no destination in mind. She let fate take the wheel for the first time in her meticulously organized life. The bus made its first stop in a small town just as dawn was breaking. Sarah stepped off, breathing in the crisp morning air. The city was just waking up, with shopkeepers opening their doors and early risers heading to the local diner for breakfast. Following her instincts, Sarah pushed open the diner's door. A bell chimed softly, announcing her arrival. The smell of fresh coffee and bacon enveloped her as she slid into a booth. "What can I get you, hon?" A friendly waitress with graying hair and kind eyes approached her table. "Coffee, please." "And whatever you recommend for breakfast," Sarah replied with a small smile. As the waitress walked away, Sarah noticed an elderly couple in the booth. They sat on the same side, their hands intertwined on the table. The woman was feeding her husband a toast, chuckling at some private joke. The sight made Sarah's heart ache with a longing she couldn't quite name. Their love, weathered by time and trials, was a testament to the enduring power of connection. Over the next few days, Sarah wandered through the town, struck by the sense of community and warmth that seemed to permeate every interaction. She watched families in the park, friends catching up over coffee, and couples strolling hand in hand down the main street. Each scene was a glimpse into a world of connection she had never fully explored. Sarah was drawn to a local bookstore on her third day in town. The quaint shop was filled floor to ceiling with books, and the smell of old paper and leather binding created an atmosphere of comfort and mystery. As she browsed the shelves, her hand brushed against someone else's, reaching for the same book. She looked up, startled, into a pair of warm brown eyes. "Oh, I'm sorry," the man said, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "Please go ahead." Sarah felt a flutter in her chest, something she couldn't quite identify. "No, it's okay. You take it," she insisted, returning his smile. "How about we share?" he suggested, pulling the book from the shelf. "I'm David, by the way." "Sarah," she replied, feeling a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the cozy atmosphere of the bookstore. They spent hours in the store, discussing their favorite books and authors. David, she learned, was a high school English teacher who had moved to the small town 5 years ago after burning out in the city. His passion for literature was infectious, and Sarah opened up about her love for reading, which had been pushed aside in pursuing her career. As they talked, she felt a spark reignite within her, a passion she had long forgotten. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah fell into a rhythm in the small town. She extended her stay at the local inn, telling herself she needed more time away from the city. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. Her friendship with David blossomed, filled with long walks, heartfelt conversations, and shared laughter. For the first time in years, Sarah felt indie and understood. David didn't care about her impressive resume or her corner office. He cared about her thoughts, her daydreams, and one evening, as they sat on a hill overlooking the town, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Sarah turned to David. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. David nodded, his eyes never leaving her face. "What does love mean to you?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. David was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "Love," he began slowly, "is about connection. It's about finding someone who sees you for who you truly are and embraces every part of you. It's about growth and support, laughter and tears. It's about building a life together, facing challenges, and celebrating each other's triumphs as if they were your own." He paused, his gaze intense as he looked at Sarah. "But most of all, love is about choice. It's choosing that person every day, through the good and bad times. It's about commitment and dedication, even when things get tough." Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. At that moment, she realized she had been searching for something without knowing it. Now, sitting here with David, she felt like she was on the precipice of discovering it. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah's life underwent a profound transformation. She resigned from her job in New York and opened a small local legal aid clinic. The work was challenging, but fulfilling in a way her corporate job had never been. She was making a real difference in people's lives, and for the first time, she felt a sense of purpose that went beyond personal achievement. Her relationship with David deepened, evolving into something beautiful and profound. They moved in together, turning a charming old Victorian house into a home filled with warmth and love. Sarah discovered the joy of lazy Sunday mornings spent reading in bed, cooking meals together, and planning for a shared future. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Sarah struggled with the adjustment from her fast-paced city life to the slower rhythm of small-town living. There were moments of doubt when she questioned if she had made the right choice. David and Sarah had their fair share of arguments and misunderstandings, learning to navigate each other's quirks and insecurities. Yet through it all, Sarah grew in ways she never had before. She learned to be vulnerable and to lean on others when she needed support. She discovered strength in softness and power in compassion. Most importantly, she learned that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments, but about the everyday choices to show up for each other, to listen, to care, and to forgive. 1 year to the day after she first arrived in town, Sarah stood in the same spot where she had asked David about the meaning of love. This time, David had a question for her. David got down on one knee as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in a breathtaking array of colors. In his hand was a small velvet box. "Sarah," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "this past year has been the most incredible journey of my life. You've taught me so much about courage, about taking risks for what truly matters. You've shown me what it means to love fully and without reservation. I can't imagine spending a day without you by my side. Will you marry me?" Tears streaming down her face, Sarah nodded, unable to speak. As David slipped the ring onto her finger, she felt a sense of completeness she had never known before. Later that night, as they celebrated with friends at the local diner where Sarah had her first meal in town, she recalled that rainy night on the bus. She had set out on a journey to discover what love was, and in the process she had found so much more. She had found herself, her purpose, and a love that filled her heart to bursting. As she looked around at the smiling faces of her friends, at David's hand intertwined with hers, Sarah realized that love wasn't something you could define or explain. It was something you had to experience, to live, to choose every day. And now that she knew what it was, she couldn't imagine living any other way. Sarah woke up early the following day, slipping out of bed without waking David. She went to the porch, watching as the sun rose over the town she now called home. As she sipped her coffee, she pulled out her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Hello," came the sleepy voice of her sister. "Hey, is Lily awake?" Sarah asked. "She's just getting up. Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," Sarah replied, a smile in her voice. "I just wanted to talk to her for a minute." There was a shuffling sound, and Lily's voice came on the line. "Aunt Sarah." "Hey sweetie," Sarah said softly. "Remember when you asked me if I'd ever been in love?" "Yeah." Sarah looked down at the ring glinting on her finger, then out at the town bathed in the soft morning light. "Well, I have an answer for you now. And it's better than anything I could have ever imagined." As she began sharing her story with her niece, Sarah felt a profound gratitude wash over her. She had embarked on a journey to know what love is, and in doing so she had found her way home.